On March 26, 2022, almost exactly 3 years ago, I ordered two little tiny 6-inch pink lemonade blueberry plants from Baker Creek. And that started my journey into growing blueberry plants, which has a steep learning curve, but it was also a fun ride. I acquired a lot more plants and lost some along the way. And I've got a lot of lessons that I learned over the past 3 years. And if I were to rewind the clock 3 years and start over, there would be quite a few things that I would do differently. So in today's video, I'm going to show you all those mistakes that I made so that you don't make them and you are off to a faster start than I was. Hey folks, if we haven't met before, my name is Tara and I garden in the beautiful Bay Area where it is just a little bit more challenging to grow blueberries because our soil tends to be clayey and very alkaline. Blueberries love acidic soil and our winters are very short. So there's a very short list of blueberry plants that we can choose to grow here. But we can still grow wonderful blueberries if we are just a little bit careful about a few things. But first, let's go back in time to 2022 and see the progression of the blueberry plants from that day until today, because it's important contextually to see all the things that I did, and I explain in great detail in that video what you need for blueberry success. So let's step into that time machine. We'll go back to 2022, 2023, 2024, and then we'll meet back here again in 2025. Well, my order of the two pink lemonade blueberry plants just arrived from Baker Creek. They came in a little bag just like this. Well, it's July 11th. Not sure why this has taken and this has not. Let's see if I can get this guy to come back. Peeking in from 2025, weren't those blueberry plants absolutely adorable? But now let's get into the good stuff, what I did next. And then we'll meet back here and I will talk about what I would do differently, the top 3 things. The number one reason why people fail at growing blueberries is they don't get the soil acidity right. Today I'm going to take you on a journey from where I started with these blueberry plants at a bad level of soil pH to now when the pH is just perfect for them and they are thriving. I'm going to be showing you both a short-term fix as well as a long-term, more sort of semi-permanent fix for the problem. Now, it's going to be a bit of a dizzy ride across the 1 year back and forth while I take you on this journey. So tighten your seatbelts and let's go. One of the most important factors affecting the growth of blueberry plants is the acidity of the soil. They need a highly acidic soil, somewhere between the pH range of 4.5 to 5.5. And the only way that you can test the soil is with a pH meter. So let's go ahead and do that for my pink lemonade blueberry plant over here. All I'm going to do is stick it in the soil and wait to see what it registers for about 30 seconds. So the pH of the soil is about 6.6, which is slightly acidic, but not acidic enough for blueberries. They require an acidity level of 4.5 to 5.5, and this is way above that range. My soil in general tends to be more alkaline. The water that I use is hard water, so that tends to be more alkaline as well. And as a result, it is very hard for me to maintain an acidity level that the blueberries like. But I've got a quick fix for that. The reason why blueberries need acidic soil is because there are certain trace minerals that blueberries absolutely need, like iron and manganese, for example, that do not absorb well at a pH of neutral or above. So it requires that acidic level in the soil for the plants to be able to uptake the iron from the soil. Adding iron, chelated iron, whatever is sold in the market, does not help, because it is the acidity of the soil that helps with the uptake. So just something to keep in mind is adding additional nutrients is not going to help if the level of acidity in the soil is not at the right level for blueberries. So the ideal way to fix this is by adding some sort of a soil acidifier. The best one that I tend to use is elemental sulfur, and this particular soil acidifier is the one that I use. I apply it quarterly, about a cup. I mix it into the surface of the soil, and then the soil microorganisms work on it over the course of time and drop the pH level of the soil. Now, this is a very long process, and in the meanwhile, I have lost blueberry plants while they were waiting for the soil acidity to reach the right level. Oh, hey there. I'm popping in here from the future. The video up until this point was filmed a year ago exactly, and I actually have results to report to you from my soil acidification process. But more on that at the end of this video. Let me show you the short-term fix that I went through and then the results of the long-term fix. So here's a quick fix while you're waiting for your soil acidity to get to where it needs to be. You need to do this every week, and that is you need to water it with regular white vinegar diluted at the rate of 1 tablespoon per gallon of water. Really, it's as simple as that, but you need to do this weekly in order for it to be effective. As simple as that. Now come back again next week and do the same thing all over again. Okay, so we're back here in the future, March 2024, and I am confident that that short-term vinegar fix that we applied, it does work because all my plants have survived. Let me show you. Now it's still midwinter, so the plants are just coming out of dormancy, producing those little buds. So let's start with my younger plants. This here is my sharp blueberry. It's a southern high bush variety, which is the kind that I can grow in my warmer climate. This is not doing so well, but it is definitely budding out. So I'm hoping that, oh, actually, look, it's got flowers as well. I believe this is a biloxi. You're wondering what these huge plants in the background are. These are straw flowers, you guys. I made the mistake a year ago of planting some straw flowers here. They grew huge and they've come back again this year. They've reseeded and I just don't have the heart to pull them out. But gosh, they're growing so beautifully, and I'm hoping that this whiskey barrel has enough nutrition in it to make both plants happy. Though I have a feeling that that's probably why this one is not growing so well, because that large plant is sucking up all the nutrition and I can't just pull it out. So I don't know, you guys, what should I do? Should I pull out these straw flowers? Do you think that they're affecting the growth of my blueberry? Maybe they are, huh? Tell me what to do. I just don't have the heart to pull them out. They grow so well here and they produce such beautiful flowers. This here is an O'Neill variety. Also lots of new growth starting to happen and even some flower buds. And this one is a sunshine blue, and this has a ton of flowers. In fact, this is supposed to be an earlier variety, the O'Neill. The sunshine blue is supposed to be a mid-season variety, but oh my gosh, this is producing a lot of flowers. So I guess my microclimate, who knows? So try growing different varieties. Blueberries are social plants. They grow so much better and produce so much more if they are growing with a different variety quite close to it that's flowering at the same time. Now, the biggest disadvantage with that vinegar fix is it is so temporary, just lasts a few days, and you got to keep reapplying it every week consistently. And I did that for several months, but I stopped doing that around about September of last year, so about 6 months ago, because I have been applying that longer term solution with elemental sulfur. And I also made a change to the soil acidifier that I am using, and I'll tell you more about that in just a little bit. But the biological process that comes with converting that sulfur to sulfuric acid is what keeps the soil acidic in the longer term, so that you don't have to keep applying that temporary fix like vinegar. I've been applying this elemental sulfur roughly about once every 4 months or so. I've got a lot to bring my pH down in my plants, and also know that it's a slow process. It's a biological process, and it can take up to a year to lower the pH by 1 point. So if you live in colder weather, it may take even longer because those biological processes go dormant during winter. Fortunately, I live in a milder climate, so it's a little faster where I live. Now, I know that you guys like to see results, so let's get to the results. Let's see the actual pH of my soil. About a year ago, it was 6.6. Let's see how much I've been able to bring it down by applying this soil acidifier once every 4 months. Let's do a pH test with our handy dandy pH monitor. Let's stick it into the first couple of inches of soil. There it goes. Giving it a few seconds there. Looks like it's stabilizing at about 5.3, 5.2 maybe. So it's right in that range, 4.5 to 5.5, which is what blueberries absolutely love. You can see all the fresh new growth coming in. There is no sign at all of chlorosis, a little bit of pink from the cold weather that we've been having. But I think this plant is going to be a happy plant and do well this year. In fact, look, it's even putting out a few buds, and it's a very young plant. So remember that soil acidifier that I told you about that I was using initially? Well, check out the analysis of the ingredients. You can see that there is a guaranteed analysis of only 30% sulfur. So the rest of it is some other unknown material. On the other hand, I got this. This is 99% pure elemental sulfur, commercial grade, and frankly, it's a whole lot cheaper than the other one that I just showed you. Now, the other advantage is because it is 99% pure, you can use much less of it. So your dollar stretches a lot longer with this 100%, almost 100% pure sulfur than this other more well-known brand, which is a good product. It's just that you got to use more of it and it costs more. So mathematically, it does not make sense to me. Now, I learned about this from Robert Pavlis from Gardening Fundamentals. He's done a very thorough analysis of the products, and I highly recommend that you go and watch his video. I'll put a link to it somewhere here and also in the description. And one thing to keep in mind is that even though the addition of sulfur is a more permanent process, it is not permanent forever. So you've got to keep applying it until you bring the soil pH down to the level that it needs to be, that 4.5 to 5.5 range. I apply about a half a cup to the surface of the soil, just the first 2 inches or so, because the roots of blueberry plants don't go very deep. And you can't go too wrong with sulfur because it's one of those things that won't harm your plants. Now, I have been applying once every 3 months or so this elemental sulfur. Once your pH gets to the right level, which is what it's at right now with my blueberry plants, you can scale it back to maybe once a year. So I'll be applying a half a cup once a year in early spring, preferably as the weather is warming up. So once a year application of about a half a cup of elemental sulfur around a 1 foot radius of the plant. If your soil is alkaline in nature, unfortunately, this is something that you're going to have to do pretty much for the lifetime of the plant. All the more reason why you want a more economical solution. Welcome back to April 27th, 2025. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned a few things, but now let's talk about the 3 things that I would do differently should I start over. But first, let's take a look at the blueberry plants. What do they look like today? And oh, by the way, let's also measure pH. That cool pH meter that I had in the other videos, I can't find it. So we're going to go old school with this analog meter, but it should do the job. Let's take a look at the plants. So this big guy sitting here in this half whiskey barrel, this is that little 6-inch plant from Baker Creek. Now, remember I got 2 plants? Well, one of them died pretty early. So this is the one that was left. And look at it, you guys. It has got blueberries. Lots of them. Now, this one is a rabbit eye variety blueberry, and so it would do best if I had another rabbit eye, but I've got only one, so it's been self-pollinating, but it's doing a pretty good job. Look at all those berries, and look how huge that plant is. It is going to need to be pruned next season because it's kind of leaning over on one side. Let's measure the pH now. You can see on the dial, the bottom number, that's the pH. And you can see it's sitting right now between 7 and 8. So we want it to go all the way back to at least 5.5 tops. Now you want to put it in a moist part of the soil. Stick it in there. So it has landed between 5 and 6, closer to 5. So I'd say about maybe 5.2 or so. That is right in the range where it should be. Now, I did add soil acidifier in the December, early January timeframe. So I took half a cup of elemental sulfur and kind of sprinkled it around and worked it into the first couple of inches of the soil. So that process will need to be repeated maybe once a year or so, just as long as I can keep the pH within the 4.5 to 5.5 range. And it's perfect right now. And that's why this plant is growing so beautifully. Unfortunately, all my blueberry plants did not have exactly that same kind of luck. This planter over here, for example, that now contains carrot and onion seedlings, used to be my Biloxi blueberry plant. It didn't make it. And my O'Neill blueberry plant, that's all that's left of it. So it's kind of on its way out. I don't think it's going to make it. On the other hand, my sharp blue blueberry plant, my, oh my, look at all those berries. It is loading up. So this one did really well. You can see the leaves are beautiful. There's no trace of any kind of deficiency. And the same actually is the case with my, which one is this? My sunshine blue blueberry plant. It has grown quite large, and unfortunately a lot of the berries didn't get pollinated. There were tons and tons of flowers, but this is one of those very early fruiting varieties. So I need to get another blueberry plant that will flower at approximately the same time as this one in order to make this one more productive. I think it's going to do phenomenal if I can get another blueberry plant. Blueberry plants are social creatures, you guys. So 6 plants altogether. Only 3 of them made it, so I had a 50% success rate. And that actually brings me to my very first aha that I'd like to share with you, is even though I tried to be soil scientist and fix my soil, many of the plants just were not able to handle that first year where the pH was really, really high. So if you're like me and your soil tends to be alkaline, don't be me. Buy ericaceous soil, and that way you can guarantee that your blueberry plants will have a really good start and will turn out beautiful, like that pink lemonade behind me. The second aha for me was, don't buy very young plants. Yes, this pink lemonade blueberry plant was adorable and it was relatively inexpensive. But gosh, it took 3 whole years to grow to this size. And frankly, the production of blueberries, I'm hoping for a lot more than this for the time and investment that I put into it. And I'm hoping next year will be better. So if you don't want to spend too much money, a good place to look out for blueberry plants if you live in the United States is Costco. They actually have wonderful older blueberry plants. I think they're about 2 years old. And they actually acquire plants that will grow well in your localities. So that's a tip for you. Actually, 3 of the plants that I got were from Costco, and at least 2 of them did really, really well. The O'Neill, I've still got my fingers crossed, but I don't think it's going to make it. And finally, the lesson that I didn't want to hear, patience and sacrifice. Sounds like my Catholic school upbringing. But it is so important in year 1 and year 2 not to let your blueberry plant produce fruit. So you got to pinch off those blossoms, pinch off those berries. Yeah, I know it seems like a sacrifice at the time, but you will be so grateful when in year 3 you are harvesting handfuls of blueberries. It is so worth it. Oh, and a bonus tip, get lots of blueberry plants. The more blueberry plants you have, the more they will cross-pollinate and the more blueberries you will get. As for me, I've got 2 containers now which used to have blueberry plants that are now no longer alive, but the soil is beautiful and acidic, and I am going to get 2 more blueberry plants as soon as I can. So quick recap, start with the right kind of soil if you can, buy an older plant if that's possible, and be patient and pluck off those cute little baby blueberries no matter how painful it might be. I hope you learned from my mistakes, folks, as well as learned something new, and do share any questions that you may have, any struggles that you're experiencing, any tips that you might have to share with the rest of us. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, live green and love your greens.